Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me the greatest pleasure to help launch your conference celebrating the extraordinary work of a very remarkable person whom I had the particular joy of knowing and being encouraged by in her later years. Kathleen was a formidable force of nature. She was a woman of great determination who possessed a tremendous intellect and was driven by a vision that never seemed to waver, despite the many challenges she faced and despite the troubling shifts in mainstream culture she witnessed during her lifetime. She was, for a very long time, a lone voice in the wilderness. So when I first got to know her, I knew exactly what she had gone through. The growing obsession in the modern world with materialism inspired much of her later poetry and ultimately prompted her 30 years ago to overcome the enormous challenges of establishing the Temenos Academy. She did so when she was already in her 80s, and I remain the Academy's very proud patron to this day. Like so many, I have gained some invaluable insights from its annual program of lectures. It is remarkable when you look back just how prophetic Kathleen was, a champion of William Blake at a time when he wasn't published or read at all at her University of Cambridge in the 1920s, a defender of spiritual values and the sense of the sacred that she felt had been drastically eroded in the 20th century. A century ago, as modernism raged, she foresaw the problems that come when we surrender our fragile sense of the sacred to the malignancy of a purely outward, brutal way of seeing the world. As she put it, we risk shattering the alchemy of our very existence, and with it, the very character and depth of our culture. Many years later, when I first met her, she was one of those rare individuals who immediately understood what I was about. She would explain with effortless fluency the implications of what I was seeking to explain myself. That when beauty is usurped by the hideous, when excellence is dispelled by the commonplace, and when consumption becomes the overriding focus of a society's outlook, we become disconnected from nature and from ourselves. Not only will this beautiful earth die, she wrote to me once, but also the soul of the world. She shared Blake's understanding that we each have within us a divine spark, what Blake called divine humanity, or what the Vedic tradition calls the self. This inner light is the ground of our being. The spark is what we are, as she put it. But I remember how insistent she was that it is simply not enough to understand this. We have to protect the spark so it can ignite a flame in the young. Her poetry and the continued work of Temenos keeps that flame alive. It nurtures what she once described to me as the winged seeds that lie cold and low. She would often quote Shelley that poetry redeems from decay the visitations of divinity. But I prefer to quote her own words in a poem demonstrating that the center of the mandala is actually everywhere. Wherever the eye falls, the mystery begins to unfold. It is there, the growing point of love, an ever-opening rose. I must say, I wish I could hear for myself the talks and lectures you are about to enjoy. I certainly wish you a thought-provoking few days as you immerse yourselves in Kathleen's immense legacy, so that you may, in the way that poem suggests, unravel the secret we have always known. And, as Kathleen so wisely pointed out, it is the light that touches all things and is our own.